Welcome to the Olive Grove podcast.
Hello.
We take source materials, things you might be curious about, and we really dive deep. We pull out the key insights so, you don't have to wade through it all yourself.
Think of it as your shortcut, your express route to getting properly informed.
Exactly. And today we're looking at 1 Kings chapter 2. Our source is the NCS 1 Kings 2 resource.
That's right. And our mission, if you like, is to really unpack the key events here, especially that big transition of power from King David to Solomon.
Yeah, and focusing on those themes, leadership, accountability, and, legacy, what gets left behind.
Precisely.
Okay, let's get right into it. So the chapter kicks off with David. He's near death, and he's giving Solomon his final charge. It's a big moment.
Huge. Passing the torch, as you said.
He tells Solomon, be strong, show yourself a man. But what does that actually mean here? Because it's probably not like the first image that jumps into our minds today, is it?
That's a great point. It's not about, say, having a big bank account or, flexing muscles. David immediately pivots. He says, show yourself a man by keeping God's commands.
Right. The statutes, ordinances, rulings, all tied to the Torah of Moses, the text.
Exactly. So it's not just vague, be good advice. It's very specific. Stick to this divine standard. That's where the strength lies.
And he links this faithfulness, and he stresses all their heart and being. He links that directly to God's promise that David's line would continue on the throne.
That connection is crucial.
Okay.
It underlines that true, lasting strength, the kind needed for a stable kingdom, comes from that deep commitment.
It really makes you pause and think, doesn't it? Outside of just this story, what does it really mean to be truly dedicated, beyond just surface appearances? The source even contrasts it with some modern, maybe shallower ideas of success.
It does. David's own life, it wasn't simple, but he understood this. That phrase, all their heart and being, it implies total devotion, not casual.
Okay, so after that foundational charge, David gets into some unfinished business, specifically Joab.
Yes. He reminds Solomon about Joab killing Abner and Amasa, commanders of the armies.
And the text is specific. Shedding the blood of war in peacetime. That hits hard. What was going on there?
Well, remember, Joab had backed Adonijah, Solomon's rival brother, for the throne just before this, and killing Abner and Amasa years earlier, while seemingly done in vengeance or preemptively, also crucially removed his main rivals for military leadership.
Okay, so personal ambition mixed with political maneuvering.
Very likely. And David tells Solomon, act according to your wisdom, basically don't let Joab die old and peaceful. He's putting the responsibility on Solomon to handle it, to secure his own reign.
And Solomon does. Though interestingly not immediately, we first see Joab hearing that Adonijah's been dealt with, and Abiathar the priest is out, and Joab runs.
He runs straight to the altar, grabbing the horns, seeking sanctuary.
It's quite the image. Why did Solomon spare Adonijah initially, but Joab gets no such consideration here?
Well, Adonijah's initial grab for power did involve the same kind of long-term bloody betrayals Joab was known for. But more pointedly, David gave Solomon explicit instructions about Joab. Solomon was following his father's dying command.
Right. Justice, or maybe accountability, demanded it in this case.
Exactly. And Joab meets his end right there at the altar. They bury him out in the desert.
And the source we're using makes an interesting point about the desert often symbolizing, like, times of trial or testing.
Yeah, suggesting Joab, despite appearances of loyalty over the years, ultimately failed that test, maybe putting his own interests first. It illustrates that principle.
Yeah.
Those who show no mercy might find none themselves.
A stark contrast, then, to David's next instruction, which is about Barzillai's sons.
Yes, complete shift. He tells Solomon to show his Tate that loyal kindness to Barzillai's family because they supported David when he was fleeing from Absalom.
So, from settling old scores to remembering loyalty.
Absolutely. It shows another side of wise leadership, recognizing and rewarding those who stood by you in the tough times. David wants that debt of gratitude paid. It's about valuing those relationships.
That really resonates, remembering who has your back.
Definitely.
Okay, now, Shimei, this one's a bit more complex, isn't it? David recounts how Shimei cursed him viciously during that same flight from Absalom.
He did. Threw stones, cursed him up and down.
But David swore an oath back then not to kill him. Yet now, he tells Solomon, do not hold him guiltless. How does that work?
It seems contradictory, but the nuance is key. David kept his personal oath he wouldn't kill Shimei, but he recognized Shimei's actions likely weren't followed by genuine repentance. There was still a debt to justice.
So he passes the judgment call to Solomon, again tasking him with ensuring accountability.
Right. And Solomon's approach here is, well, quite clever. He doesn't just execute him. He confines Shimei to Jerusalem, tells him, stay within the city limits, you live, step outside, you die.
And the source material offers that interesting take, seeing Jerusalem here as a kind of refuge, a place of safety, conditional on obedience, almost like a parallel to finding refuge from sin.
Exactly. Stay within the offered boundaries, within God's city in this context, and you're protected. It's a chance maybe for reflection, for living accountably.
But Shimei blows it. After 3 years, and the source notes that 3 years often signifies a period related to God's will manifesting.
He leaves. Why? Because some of his slaves ran away and he goes chasing after them, chasing his property.
He prioritizes his earthly possessions over the king's command, over the terms of his safety.
It's a powerful picture of misplaced values, isn't it? Choosing the worldly over the conditions of grace or refuge he was given. He breaks his oath, the one Solomon made him swear.
And the consequence is immediate. Solomon calls him out on it, reminds him of his oath and his past wickedness, and Shimei is executed.
It reinforces that theme. Words versus actions. Shimei might have lived quietly for 3 years, but his actions, when tested, revealed his true priorities. Cheap talk, as the source puts it.
So after handling these key figures, we get the account of David's death.
Yes, he reigns 40 years, 7 in Hebron, then 33 in Jerusalem, cementing it as the capital. He dies and is buried.
Marking the end of an era and the solid establishment of Solomon's reign, a time meant to be more peaceful.
It really is a moment for reflection, as the source suggests, on legacy. David built a kingdom, flawed as he was. He leaves Solomon peace, stability, a centralized nation. It prompts you to ask, what kind of legacy are we building? Just material stuff? Or something deeper, like spiritual peace and integrity?
That's a good question. Now, just when you think things are settled, Adonijah pops up again.
Right. He goes to Bathsheba, Solomon's mother.
And his request seems almost naive. He asks her to ask Solomon if he can marry Abishag. She was the young woman who cared for David in his final days.
On the surface, maybe, just let me marry this woman. But culturally, this was loaded. Abishag was part of the former king's household, intimately connected to him. Possessing the king's concubine or consort could be seen as staking a claim.
So it wasn't just a personal request, it had political implications.
Huge ones. It was a way Adonijah could subtly try to regain influence, maybe test the waters, signal to others that he still had ambitions.
And Solomon sees right through it, instantly. His reaction to Bathsheba is sharp. He basically says, why just ask for Abishag? Ask for the whole kingdom for him while you're at it.
He absolutely gets the subtext. He recognizes it as a veiled power play.
No hesitation this time. Solomon orders Adonijah's immediate execution.
It's swift, decisive. Solomon understands that any ambiguity, any perceived weakness or allowance for rival claims could destabilize everything. It confirms that Adonijah, despite seeming subdued earlier, hadn't truly accepted Solomon's rule. His actions, again, betrayed his words.
Like one last figure, Abiathar the priest, he also backed Adonijah. What happens to him?
Solomon handles him differently. He doesn't execute him.
Why not?
Solomon acknowledges Abiathar's long service to David, the hardships he shared, and crucially, that he carried the Ark of the Covenant before David. There's respect for that history and the sacred office.
But he doesn't get off scot-free.
No. Solomon removes him from the priesthood, banishes him back to his hometown. It's a significant demotion and removal from power.
And the source connects this to fulfilling an old prophecy.
Exactly. A prophecy made way back against the house of Eli, Abiathar's ancestor, because of their unfaithfulness. So Solomon's political act is also shown as part of a larger divine plan playing out over generations.
Wow. So wrapping up 1 Kings 2, we've seen David's final charge, Solomon dealing decisively with Joab, Shimei, and Adonijah, showing kindness to Barzillai's sons, removing Abiathar. It's really a masterclass in consolidating power, but also in accountability.
Absolutely. It's about establishing the kingdom, yes, but doing so based on principles David laid out: faithfulness, justice, wisdom. It highlights how crucial it is for words and actions to align. You see the consequences when they don't.
And the importance of integrity, discernment in leadership. It's not just about being strong, but wise.
That's a key takeaway. And building a legacy that's about more than just holding on to power.
It really gives you a lot to chew on.
It does. And, thinking about legacy and impact today, it connects to things happening right now.
How so?
Well, for instance, for listeners who feel moved by these themes of faithfulness and making a tangible difference, there are communities focused on that. We wanted to mention the My Christian Space community, which is a place for folks to connect around these kinds of discussions.
Okay. A space for further reflection.
Exactly. And thinking about practical support, like David remembering Barzillai, Enduring Freedom Ministries, which is connected to the community, has a specific goal right now.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
They're working to establish a much-needed food pantry right in Jerusalem, Israel, providing real, tangible support.
It's incredible. Supporting people in Jerusalem, tying back to the very city we've been discussing.
Precisely. So if supporting that kind of initiative resonates with you, we definitely encourage you to look into donating to help make that food pantry a reality.
Good to know. And for more deep dives like this one,
definitely subscribe to the Olive Grove podcast here on YouTube.
And you can also check out the My Christian Space website. Sometimes these discussions drop there a bit early.
Good point. Early access is always nice.
Okay, so as we close out this deep dive into 1 Kings 2, maybe a final thought for you, our listener, to carry with you.
How do these ancient themes, accountability, the weight of our words matching our deeds, the kind of legacy we build, how do they resonate in your life right now?
Yeah. How are they playing out in the legacies being built around you and by you today? Something to really mull over.
Definitely. Until next time on the Olive Grove podcast.
Thanks for joining us.